Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2022 Composition Musicale. I'm Dr. Evan Meyer, the Music Theory and Composition Chair, and I'm remembering to introduce myself this time. So thank you all for being here. We have a wonderful program with some youth and adult student compositions and some student faculty performers as well. So the way this is going to work is each student is going to come up, play their piece, or somebody else will play the student's piece, and then we're going to ask the student to come from the front, to the front, sit in the hot seat, and then one of our faculty members will give some comments on the piece. Okay, so first up on the program, we have Leo Chung. He's a student of John Bell, and he'll be playing Lonely Nights Strut. Let's give him a hand. So you can hear you.
Where did you
press the button on the bottom?
Everyone can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. Or is it for the?
It's for the video.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. There's a button on the bottom. Just press it in. There you go.
So can you tell us what inspired I noticed a bass line and some interesting rhythms in this piece. What you were listening to or what you were playing that kind of got those ideas for you?
So there was a piece that I played in the lesson book called Pumpkin Boogie that inspired the bass line because I really liked how that sounded. And the beat was mostly inspired from blues music that I was playing at the time.
Very nice. So what blues music were you playing?
There was a piece called Just Strutting Along. That's where I got part of the name and the beat from.
Very good. So I very much enjoyed the piece. I was wondering if you know where this tradition of the walking bass line, like, well, here's kind of a maybe simple, maybe difficult question. what instrument would typically play a walking bass in like a band?
I think like, I don't actually know.
Oh, here's a hint. It's called a bass line for a reason. Do you know the instrument upright bass?
The
String bass. Yeah. And so typically the bass line would be actually plucked on the strings. And so, and this kind of goes along, I have two ideas for you as you kind of continue, if you want to write another piece like this. So the first is to definitely listen to some traditional blues and kind of walking bass music with the plucked upright bass. And one of the main reasons for that is I like the piece very much. I think you could play it with a little more attention to the different possibilities of articulation on the piano. So I'm wondering what type of blues, jazz, syncopated music you've listened to specifically for piano music. And I think if you listen to a lot more of that, then you'll hear all the different possibilities of articulation. Yeah, so just let me ask you, what about the piano lends itself to like syncopated rhythms?
Well, I think that like, I actually don't know.
That's okay. So that's why we're, you'll learn these things over time, obviously. So I love the piano because on the one hand it's a very singing, beautiful instrument, but on the other hand it's still percussion, and so with the syncopation you can get a little extra bite in the sound, yeah, and that's the magic of piano articulation. So that's one of the things, as you continue to listen to piano music of many different types. So some composers like, the Chopins and the Romantics, they would emphasize more the singing quality of the piano. But then when you get into the 20th century with jazz and blues, lots of the time you'll hear pianists emphasizing more the percussive aspect. So you're playing, do you think you emphasize more the percussion or more the singing?
I think since the bass line for most of the piece was kind of percussion.
Oh, so I actually think you were playing more of a singing sound, and I would love to hear more of the percussion sound as you continue to play, especially a piece like this, that is. Yeah. So, thank you. Very nice.
Okay, next up we have Linus Sang, who will be playing a Sonata No. 1, Movement 3, and Linus is a student of St. Post.
Do you need a picture?
What?
Great job, Linus. So tell me, what classical sonatas or sonatinas did you play that informed this piece as you were writing it? Haydn and Mozart. Is there any chance that you played a sonata by Beethoven?
No.
Was it Opus 79? No? Okay. The left hand reminds me of that one. Anyway, I think the sense of it being a classical sonata or a classical sonatina, a lot of the vocabulary, the types of melodies, the types of left hand patterns that you've written you're doing a very good job of evoking that kind of musical language, and your performance was excellent, by the way. I just want to point out a couple of things. So since we're writing in like a historical style, there are some things we want to do so that the music, sort of keeps in the same style, right? So one of the things that I was thinking about as I was listening to were cadences. Do you know about cadences, Linus? Okay. So, for instance, you have authentic cadences and half cadences, right? And then you have these different themes. One of the things that I'm noticing is that a lot of the themes that I hear don't end in cadences before you move on to the next idea. So for example, your opening theme here, you've got the tonic chord, and then the 5 chord in the 4/3 position, and you alternate between those two. And then right here, you start your modulation to the dominant. So you've got one little thing right here that a Haydn or Mozart wouldn't do, and that's called a cross relation. Have you heard about cross relations before? So let me show you. Okay. So, here, hold the microphone for me, Linus. Okay. So you've got here the F to F sharp. So when you introduce the F sharp when you're modulating to the dominant, you want it to happen in the same voice. So we can hear that chromatic motion upwards. That's one thing I noticed. Another thing that I noticed is that your left hand is always doing a single chord shape. Have you heard about open position chords before?
No.
So for instance, when you do this theme, both hands are doing the same chord, but you could space out the chords a bit more. Can you play octaves yet? So you could do octaves in the left hand. That would be a very like Haydn or Beethoven type left hand. That might be something to think about. And then a couple of these themes, I want to hear like a half cadence at the end of one of the phrases and then an authentic cadence at the end of another phrase. And that would create more of the type of phrase structure that we often hear. So in your second theme, right, so it just ends in an authentic cadence. But what like a Haydn or a Mozart or a Beethoven might do, right, is go to the dominant and then have a second phrase. So that's an answer. Have you studied question and answer phrases at all? No? So it's something that's called a parallel period. So Ode to Joy is a parallel period. Half cadence. Authentic cadence. And it's a way that classical composers often structure their phrases. So while you have a lot of the right textures and melodic figures from the classical era, and some of this is very good, like these hand crossings that you have right here, those are great. But you might think about studying the phrase structure a bit more, these question-answer phrases. Okay? So great work, Linus. Okay, so we're going to take a short break to set for Andy Yu's piece, which is Rhododactylus, so they need to get their string quartet set up. right, that's a great job, Andy. So Andy, by the way, is a student of Musicale, one of our other composition faculty. So, Andy, tell us a little bit about the what your intentions were in writing the piece. So I saw you had a short program note, but I imagine there's a bit more thought that went into this. So could you just tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, like, the original idea for this piece, I think it stemmed originally from like this composition workshop that I had with Sam Pope's ensemble, where his ensemble played like a piano trio of mine, and I think it was Bernard Valdingham who played violin, who told me that like there was like a lot of things that I could work on for like writing for strings in general, because like, what he said like was like you could instantly tell like how if someone's a strings player, not just from their writing, and like I essentially I knew that I had to like really like work on like writing for strings in general. So, like I wrote this piece kind of like as an exercise originally, but like I ended up like really sorry, kind of like developing this piece of just like making it is what it is now.
Okay, so so you wrote the trio before that. Have you written for? I don't think I've heard many strings pieces from you before that.
I've never written for a string quartet before this.
Yeah, and Andy is a pianist. So, you know, in terms of the balance between the different instruments, I mean, one of the dangers in writing for string quartets is, you know, to give the first violin the melody the whole time, and then the rest of the ensemble accompanies. I'm sure our first violinist would enjoy that, but you know, and you certainly see like you know, high-end quartets, for example, that would do that. But you had a lot of interaction between the players. You know, there are times where the second violinist takes over, the violist. So in terms of, you know, balancing the ensemble texture, I think that's great. So one thing that I am noticing is that you're indicating the bowing very little, apart from a couple of slurs and some arcos and pizzicati.
Yeah.
And I noticed that some of your players were inventing bowings for you.
I think that's like kind of due to like I think I just made it a rule not to put bowings because like, I don't understand it.
Well, okay, so it's like, I would say that it's dangerous if you're writing in up bows and down bows, because the players will dislike them. There'll be something inevitably that they decide they don't like. So I'll give you an anecdote. So one time I had a piece played by the Minnesota Orchestra, and my teacher at the time, Mark Wilson, was a violinist, and he had me put up bows and down bows and everything. And I studied very hard. I'm not a string player. And I had this passage of triplets. And it was a bar of 4/4. It started on the second beat of the measure on the second eighth note triplet. And I thought, okay, that's going to be an up bow. But then one of the cellists comes to me and says, this is incorrect. Because what they do is they imagine an entire bar of triplets starting on a down bow. So the second eighth note of that triplet pattern is a down bow. So it's stuff like that that you're not going to know. So just don't attempt up bows and down bows. But you should put in slurs, absolutely. And they were adding slurs in the piece that you didn't have in there. So let's just try out an example. So let's take your first phrase. So if we look at this, what is legato here? Is this all legato?
It's a bit like
Okay. So at this tempo, would we be okay with, generally speaking, doing a new bow every measure?
I think so.
Why don't we try that? And then our violin one, I think when you have the B flat on the upbeat of bar 2, start a new bow there. So why don't we try that? Just the first 4 bars and do a bow every measure. See how that sounds. Okay, let's now do it as Andy wrote it, with a new bow on every note. What do you like better?
I'm still like kind of inclined to like the one that I originally is kind of better, but like
But they're very different
no
textures. Yeah, I think where they're doing a separate bow on every note, there's more of a sense of pulse.
yeah
Where we have a bow every measure, it's more sustained. Yeah. And you know, adagio sereno, that, I don't know, that implies to me that it's not very marked in pulse. But it's something to definitely think about. And these yeah, there are several passages where I think adding some bowings, and I mean just literally putting in slurs, would really help clarify things. And you know, there's like a little bit you have to take into account, like, you know, how long a bow can last depending on the dynamic level. You know, so if it's a louder dynamic, then you know the bow it's not going to last as long at a softer dynamic. So just stuff like that to take into account. There are also some little notational things that if I talk about them, they're going to bore the audience here. But if you want to talk to me afterwards, I can point them out in the store. Yeah, just in terms of giving like a nice clean look to it. Yeah. Okay, well that was great. Supposed to be soundless. Okay, so next on our program, this is a set of 2 songs by Marcy Medich. Unfortunately, Marcy had a last-minute conflict, so couldn't be here today, but we're still going to do a recording of her songs and just provide a little feedback for them. So here is Amanda Fink, our guest singer, and Sam Post playing Hear My Voice and Singing Sparrow Blues.
What if Earth could sing her song? Would anybody listen? What if I raised my voice? Will anybody hear? Hey, hear my voice, everybody listen. Hear my voice, we can change the world. lost my papa at only 99. Thought he'd stay forever and always be fine. I got the singing sparrow blues. Ooh, I got the blues. I got the singing sparrow blues. I got the singing sparrow blues. Miss my papa, his humor and his smile. Telling funny stories, how I miss your style. I got the singing sparrow blues. Ooh, I got the blues.
Well, I think if we could just, I know Marcy isn't here, but Sam, if you could do some feedback on the piano part.
Sure.
And I think it also might be helpful to hear from Amanda about how it sits in the vocal register.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll speak to Marcy, even though she's not here, I suppose, watching the video. So I like these songs. I would say there's a lot of doubling written into the piano part with the vocal line, which Marcy probably already noticed that we ignored. So it's a little, it makes it difficult. Yeah, it's just a little strange to double the vocal line in the piano. It would be different, with an orchestration if you have different colors. If you have the flute doubling, you have the clarinet doubling, but typically with the piano, it's something that you want to save as a special effect instead of kind of having all the way through the song. The other thing I would say, I especially like the second song. I think, Marcy, the B section could be more convincing compared to the A, the main section, which I like very much and find very convincing. So I'm talking about this. So I would probably try to look for maybe a different bass note, a different harmony to kind of sit on, because the A section is kind of sitting on the tonic, the F, and returning to it. And then I might even try to add some type of build up to something resembling a half cadence on the always be fine, so that then the return to the A section is a little more satisfying, or somehow builds to that. The way it's written, I kind of felt like it didn't really give a sense of anticipation back to that the way I think it could. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, I agree with Sam about the doubling of the melody. I don't think it's really helpful to the singer, because a singer in these styles should be able to be a bit free and take some liberties, and it can feel a little bit restrictive if we're confined to the exact rhythm that the piano is doing, and it can also create a little bit of a discord between us. I would like to talk a little bit, so in Hear My Voice, Hear the Earth Song, I want to talk a little bit about the dynamics. I'm sure this applies to other instruments too, but generally in singing, the higher you sing, the louder it's going to be, and the lower you sing, the quieter it's going to be. So it's really important just to sort of be aware of that and be really clear what your intention is when you're writing. So we have, what if Earth could sing her song? Would anybody listen? And then we have a big jump. What if I raise my voice, right? But we're starting piano, and then that big old leap, octave, is mezzo piano. That's a little tricky, right? So that doesn't make much sense to me, especially with the text. What if I raise my voice, right? It should probably be forte, or if the effect is supposed to be a what if I, like some kind of whisper thing, it needs to be really obvious to the singer that that's what they're going for, right? This is just kind of a little bit unclear, a little bit muddy. And in Singin' Sparrow Blues, I liked Singin' Sparrow Blues. I thought it was easy to sing. It felt really natural and comfortable. A couple times there are a couple things that are a bit rangy, but actually in Singin' Sparrow Blues, I didn't mind it because I understood what she was going for. So like, I got the Singin' Sparrow Blues. That's just kind of a one-off thing, so it's not really a big deal. In the previous song, there are some higher notes that are supposed to be hummed. Marcy, a singer doesn't like that. I think it's probably okay, like if she were here, I'd probably be able to talk to her a little bit about if we could open it up and have some freedom there, if it's just meant to be sort of improvised, but since she's not here, we're required to do what she wrote, which is hard. And then the last thing I would say is, for some reason in Evan, or like composers, can you tell me why? It feels more natural for me, so for that like B section in Singin' Sparrow Blues, lost my papa at only 99. For some reason, it feels a lot better for me as a singer for it if that were lost my papa, downbeat, lost my papa at only 99. Do you have any idea why that feels better? Coming in straight.
Yeah, you're not doing the rhythm there that she wrote. The rhythm is lost my papa at only 99.
Yeah, but that's
It's a little unclear
Yeah.
with the swing though.
Yeah. It could be written out
Yeah.
in eighth notes and triplets. Da, 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 right?
Yeah, I guess I want there to be like an eighth rest before it begins, but that could just be my taste, but also what I'm used to a little bit.
I think it depends on the word you want to emphasize, lost or papa.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that part's fine. I see. I liked your songs. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Sam Post playing again, and he'll be playing Claire Rosser's piece, which is Prayer for Ukraine, and Claire is a student of Jordan Chase. Okay, Sis, you want to come up? Can we use the microphone, Sis?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Here you go. Do you want to sit down so you're in frame?
Whatever.
Here, fine.
You want me to be over here? Yeah. So, first of all, I always think it's wonderful when artists speak up about these terrible situations. And I think we all want to speak up about what's going on in Ukraine. And you did it. And that's really very important for people to stand up and say what they feel about this. So I really enjoyed, I love the idea of you doing this. It starts as kind of quiet rage. Did you feel that? Is that what you're looking for?
I wrote this, I think war had just started, and I'm sorry, I'm crying. Thanks, Sam. I mean, this is, I know we all feel this way, and it's not just this war, it's suffering, you know, it's not just this war. And we just get overwhelmed. And I remember I just said, I have to sit down and do something. And I worked on it. You know, it's never satisfying, you never really get it, you know, you just try, and it makes you feel a little better. I was so sad, is what it was at the beginning. And I hope you've heard that. I heard the sadness.
Yeah, I really
And
did.
kind of a feeling of helplessness, you know. Mm-hmm. And I said prayer for Ukraine because it's like, what else are you going to do? I mean, you know, the music just sort of sends it out into the universe. You know, please, can't we stop suffering, you know, human suffering? And so I really worked on it hard, and I would try, you know, people would listen and revise, whatever. But then, as I said in the notes, after the school shooting, I kind of just, I was like, how much can we take, you know? Mm. So I went back to it. I changed some of the dynamics, which you did, Sam. You did that good. I still wanted to keep the sadness, but I also, there's just this feeling of, you know, and I think the heartbeat, I hope you all got that heartbeat strong, because that's, you know, okay, we're alive. That's what we share with humans and animals. Our hearts are beating, and it keeps beating no matter what, as long as we live. And so, as I say, it's very cathartic. I'm telling you, all you composers here, you just do it because you have to do it. You know, you just, what else are you going to do? I mean, go out, open the window and scream, you know, in frustration, or you sit down and try to get it out in music.
Most of the music I've written is often in response to something like this, and I think it's not a very long piece. I would encourage you to get the rage out in the music and have another 2 or 3 movements to do that, because what you just said is exactly what you wrote. But I think you know that when people are really raging about it, they have to let that out. And I think that would be, I liked your piece a whole lot, and I think I would like to hear the other part of that as well.
I could, if I get the, right, I could keep doing this. My style, I don't tend to be able to write chaotic music you know, I think my brain really works hard trying to make sense of the world. So the music is, the harmonies, you know, where there may be a little bit, well, certainly I never write in a major key, never, ever, can't do it. But minor keys, then weird modes, combinations, like that final, the final chord. Not quite sure. I remember Jordan heard it and he kind of looked at it. What has she done here? I'm looking at Sam, but you know, Jordan was my teacher. He said, whoa, that's a different chord. But that's kind of as chaotic as my brain goes. I think other people, maybe any of you, would sit down and you would put your stuff in there and you would be, you know, writing all over it like a thunderstorm. And it just isn't the way my brain seems to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to tell you, I like this piece so much, and I don't want you to change anything in there.
I know,
But
just
you might
do something
just,
more.
you might consider it
Right.
and see, because that's the next step, I think. I don't like what's going on, and I want to, it doesn't have to be something where you're screaming. It's more, you know, I think that you could do more with this. So anyway,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, next up, John Nowick will be playing his, I guess it's a song, right?
Yep.
Okay, That Summer Night. All right. Oh, and John is a student of Jeff Chappelle.
And I must admit, after hearing some of the beautiful performing, I am not a real pianist. I write music, so bear with the performance of it.
Sam's gonna
Beautiful, I love it. The only question is, it certainly sounds like a song, and I mean, I love it. It's beautiful, and the harmonies are wonderful, and I'm wondering, I know there was something in the program notes, but are there words? Do you plan to make it a song, or is it in its final form as a lead sheet that you envision pianists? What's your vision, I guess?
Sam, it's waiting for a lyricist.
It's waiting for a lyric, okay.
I've written several dozen songs over the years, and some lyricists have given me lyrics, and I've put music to that.
And sometimes it's the other way around.
And sometimes I just sit down, noodle around like with this, come up with some tune, and often I send them to lyricists, and sometimes it sticks, and someone comes up with a lyric to it. So I'd be delighted if anyone knew a lyricist who might like to put lyrics to this. I have a feeling that most of the songs I write, Jeffrey tells my music composition teacher tells me they call out more for lyrics than even this one does. But I don't know, maybe some lyricists might find words for this.
Interesting, yeah. And so, I mean, my other question is, because I think it works extremely well on the piano, actually. I think there are probably a few touches you could add just to make it more of a piano thing, which I'm sure Jeffrey would help you with. I mean, it's already like quite wonderful, I think. Just to make it a little more pianistic, probably you could experiment more with because the piano doesn't have the restriction of range like a vocal melody. You could just experiment with expanding the range to make it fit on the piano, perhaps.
You mean playing some songs like 8 higher or?
Yeah, some of the melody you could possibly experiment with octaves on the repeat, or putting the melody lower in the middle range and having some of the flourishes, some of the chords above the melody. That's kind of how I was hearing some potential like register shifts, and that would give it a little, especially because obviously in a song with a repeat, there's the opportunity to change the words, or the accompaniment could emphasize different things. So when we think about repeating something on the piano, when you're repeating the same melody, you could think about shifting the melody down an octave, up an octave, or actually in octaves in the right hand. For instance, just some things to think about if you play it again on the piano, which I think you should, because it's quite lovely. But yeah, just the kind of the tension and release you get from the harmonies is really wonderful. So that's all I got. It's great.
Thank you. Sam, question for you.
Absolutely.
Since I'm an untrained music writer,
Yeah.
if you were to say playing the second time, playing it higher or lower or whatever, is that something you think a composer should write into it, or just leave it for the jazz or pop pianists to do themselves?
I'm not sure. It depends. I mean, if you were to write out a piano arrangement, then that would be one thing. I'm thinking more for you when you're playing it next time. You could experiment with doing that yourself, because I think just judging based on your playing, I think that would be well within your capabilities. But it's probably something that you're not used to, especially putting the melody in like the third voice in the middle with chords above. Sounds like might be. I see from your it sounds like something you probably haven't done.
I might know it if I heard it.
Yeah, but you could. Well, let me just. I don't know. So like, I'm thinking. Watch these chords.
No, please.
But something like. So here, so you have the chords up here with the melody here. I can't play it, but you get the idea. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. All right.
I think it's probably safe to use for 2 more pieces. All right, and I just want to say, John, I think you're downplaying your piano skills.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. You sounded great. Okay, so next up we have another composer. composer-performer Susan Darcy will be playing Visions Fugitives, and Susan is also a student of Jim Chappelle.
Yes, it humbles me. I guess I have to say I'm not really a pianist either, right? But I do write for the piano. Oh, I don't think I need my glasses. So other than that, I don't know if I need them or not. Bear with me. I got a pair of glasses. I'm not sure. I can play. Thank you very much.
Again, no need to apologize. Is this on? This is on.
That's on.
Very beautiful. So, I was wondering, I mean, the name, I'm sure for many piano people, piano students, evokes a certain composer, but then right from the beginning, I think the music evoked a different composer. Does everyone know the composer who wrote the Visions Fugitive, Prokofiev piano? No? Okay. Did you know that?
I did, but I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Sorry?
I'm drawing a blank right now. I can tell you something about the title, but I'm drawing a blank. I do, but.
Oh, okay, so that's what I thought of when I see the title, because Prokofiev wrote a set.
I could tell you a little bit of an intro about it. I wrote the first piece and called it Etude because I sat down, I was sort of in an etude kind of mind, and when I played it, and I just presented that first part to Jeffrey, and he said it, for him it evoked Vision Fugitive. And I wasn't sure, but then I just started writing more because he said Vision Fugitives, maybe there should be more. And so the first was just written, not just because it was brief. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So I always appreciate in your music, which I've heard, a few times now, great attention to like bass line, which I love, and along with that, very interesting and colorful and juicy harmonies, which this piece did not disappoint as usual. So, and I love along with that, this piece, in contrast to the one that we heard in whatever it was, March, April, had some more moments of kind of rhythmic jauntiness, which I really liked as well, especially in this, I guess it's the second or the third one. And yeah, I mean, I think it works really nicely as a short set. It's really well done, and I would encourage you to add more, or just write another set, because I think it's just very colorful, and but with real clarity of not only melody but bass movement, and I just really always appreciate that. I'm always telling my students, listen to bass, listen to bass, listen to bass lines. That's what other students can tell you. So really nicely done. Thank you. And no need to apologize again for
Just
piano.
a little bit
Really
nervous,
nice.
but thank you so much.
Okay, in closing us out, George Raphael Cooper will be playing, I couldn't fit the whole title in here, but it's the overture from his musical Molly McDougal Montgomery McGrath and Other Stories to Make You Laugh. And he'll be playing it.
talking about making songs out of this, and I believe that you, in here it says that there is someone else who was creating melodies, and I don't know if she was someone who wrote for the piano or whatever instruments, and then have the stories of these. Are you going to make a song with it and have somebody sing it, or several people sing it? Because I love what you played.
Thank you. I explained this a bit in my program note, but just to go into a little more detail. So my father, in his retirement, discovered a love for writing children's stories, and he published a collection of children's stories, which he called Molly McDougal, Montgomery McGrath, and Other Stories to Make You Laugh. And he wrote a set of lyrics, I think 13 maybe, sets of lyrics that he worked with a local songwriter to set to music. And they never quite finished their collaboration, but after he passed away, I was really curious, like, whatever came of that? And so I found her, I found the songwriter that he worked with, and she actually, she is a very different kind of musician than I am, which is great. She doesn't actually read music at all, as I don't think. She plays the guitar and she sings. And so what she had done is she made an actual audio cassette tape of her just playing the guitar and singing these songs. And so I sort of set about completing the work that she had started. And so a lot of these tunes actually started out with my father, which is, I found it to be a really pleasant surprise, because I think he really liked music in a lot of ways. He was like, one of his fondest memories was, you know, him playing Dick Deadeye in his middle school production of HMS Pinafore. So despite the fact that like he was actually kind of tone deaf, he had a real affinity for music, and I think really wanted to see this through, but he actually provided a lot of tunes himself, and that served as the starting point for a lot of the songs, either that Spice continued to work on or that I continued to work on. And so yeah, the tape the work that I started with was this tape of her singing the songs with guitar accompaniment. And so I made my own piano accompaniments and vocal harmonies and wrote out the score. And so this is the overture, but there are, in addition to this, a bunch of songs that make up the musical as a whole. Okay. So it's a potpourri style overture. So like it's mostly just tunes from other songs in the musical that are sort of just strung together.
Are you going to go further with this and try to get this performed at some point with all the music and all of the words and everything else?
That would be wonderful, but I know that the skill set of getting music actually performed and produced is a very different skill set from that of writing music.
Right, yes, I agree. Yeah.
Especially, you know, it's one thing if it's just like a piece for the piano and you need one performer, but a musical is a whole different endeavor, you know, needing a whole cast, and, you know, ideally I would orchestrate it and like have it, you know, performed with sets and costumes and...
Oh, I wasn't suspecting.
Well, I would love that, but
yeah.
I guess there's sort of, there I guess you could go like, you can go to that extreme, or, you know, lots of places in between, but yeah, I'm my focus so far has just been on writing the music. Actually, getting other people to perform it is another thing that I haven't really thought that much about yet.
I think I love the music that you played, and I think you played it very well.
Thank you.
It was had different dynamics, and you did at the same time. You had several ideas in it, and you came back and sort of kept them going. And so I was thinking, well, take the next step and find a singer. And I wasn't thinking of 3 singers or anything, just one singer who could sing some of the words that have influenced you into writing the piece that you have here.
So, I'm sure some of you were here, perhaps the instructors were here, at least for the last masterclass. And for that, I did have like one of the individual, I sang one of the individual songs from the musical.
Yeah. So there's so much that you could do with this, and I'm just trying to encourage you to take a step and maybe find one person who could sing some of them. That would make a wonderful performance, and you could write another part of you could write the other part for the piano, and that would be a way of pulling this all together.
All right.
Yeah, I think you should do that. And I'm sure we could have it performed here. You could ask your friends to come and hear it and all of that. I think that would be something that you would have to ask everybody you know to come and hear you on. But I think you've done so much, and it's in honor of your father. I think it would be a wonderful thing to do.
I agree.
Yeah. And one other question: who is your piano teacher? It's not on here.
No, I don't have a piano teacher right now. It's been.
So you're taking, or your composition teacher?
Sam Post.
Sam Post is. Oh, okay. So it's not written here. So, at least I don't see it. So,
Oops.
that's okay. I just wanted to give him the credit for your piano playing and for your composition. So.
Yes, thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for participating in the workshop. I think this is an invaluable experience for students to actually hear their music played by live performers and get the opportunity to perform themselves in front of an audience. And hopefully our feedback was useful. So let's give one more round of applause to all of our student composers. Thank you to our faculty members, Sam and Sam. Guest artist, Amanda Fink.
And Robin.
Oh. We'll hope you will join us next year. We'll be bringing in another guest artist for our masterclass, and we'll hope to have this composition musicale again. And I'll keep you all on the email list and let you know. Great, thank you.
I think it's because you did so much, like it really suited so much, like rain, and color.
Yeah, and I guess doing that kind of, there's a lot of opportunities to do that because you have all these different things that you're drawing on.
Yeah, that's really true. But it definitely worked, and I really liked the end too.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I thought you could like recording more.
Yeah, I really like doing like this sort of playful kind of thing. And that's one of the reasons why I was so happy to work with my
Exactly. Yeah. And I can totally hear that too. I felt like you have really good style, like good style and stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, Sam. Well, you know, it's funny that like one of the things that Sam said recently, like he wants to work on like experimenting more with rhythms and syncopations and things like that. And then like this is a great opportunity for that because the singer-songwriter that started this whole thing off, I guess my father started the whole thing, but like she continued to work on it. Like well, that was one of the things she was very good at, was introducing lots of syncopation. And so that gave me something really great to start with and like keep emphasizing and experimenting with the syncopation there. So yeah, I'm so happy that all that came through.
Yeah. No, it was really great. And, you know, it would obviously be really difficult for full production, but I really
I saw that in the program. I thought, oh, this is so funny. Like, what are the chances? Yeah, that's, you know, I have tried a little bit with getting my pieces like, and you know, these are like much smaller scale pieces, like, you know, solo or like, you know, chamber music or things like that, and it's, I have yet to succeed. Like the closest, you know, the closest that I got was that my string quartet and like, so my husband was essentially hiring a string quartet for a basic party anyway, and they, you know, it's like, yeah, sure, we just have to play at a party. Not exactly ideal circumstances, and that like, you know, it's a party, like everybody's talking, you can't really hear it, but still, like, things like that, if you're making money, like, a lot of times you can make things happen. It's a lot harder if you know, want other people to take a chance with their own money. Thank you.
I love your piece too. So it evoked a certain time.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I just tell my students, we do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
How did you end up getting involved in the event?
Oh, I'm a friend of that.
Okay.
So he was just like, you know, he wanted to get
Oh, I see.
he said that's something. Do you know Marcy? I don't know.
Well, I mean, she's been a student here for a while now. You know, seems yeah.
We tried to podcast. I'm not sure if you're but he's Peabody, and then she would listen to, and she remembered her name. And he was very good.
As I mentioned, they wanted to do some sort of science or math.
Not yet, but there's.
There's always a school. Out of school. Academic program.
Well, I mean,
Singing, I feel like after COVID now, not so much feel like you're able to sing as much as you did before. I know the net is very strict about that. I don't know what
The smaller companies are even worse.
Yeah.
Because there's no contingency. They were there. If, like,
Yeah,
well,
the
most of the
net-
time they would have covered.
Right, so net has coverage.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
You're like indispensable.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
It was the first.
It's big, I did a gig last summer that was like a few months long.
What's that?
And it, you know, when you were working, yeah, we had hosts, good cards, we were in a bubble, we were in person every day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then a lot of other gigs we were missing and that also like,
Yeah, even solo too.
It's just more and more of your next favorite piece.
It's been frustrating enough.
So that basic, but, obviously,
What was your least favorite?
I'll take gigs
some of
that
it's
are
gonna be
thrown at me,
so
but
just,
I'm
just
not
give you like different ideas.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess if you were in Florida, you could.
Probably not. If I were in Florida, well, things would be different in every area.
Yeah, I think so.
I might also be burned at the stake or something.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind the weather, but other than that, there's a lot of things about it. Less than ideal.
Oh,
It certainly is. Well, it's funny running into you here.
Well, if you want to pursue you at least for a while, you know.
I'm glad I got to pursue it.
So,
I know you're very busy.
Oh, yeah. So if we, do you know the schedule? Yes. When will you know?
I have no
September?
idea, because it's a new team.
Yeah, yeah.
We've never played the team. I just know that it's only free practices.
Well, let's just stay in touch. I mean, it would be, yeah, at least, it would be great to, probably long term, have a teacher there. But certainly we can keep doing virtual as long as.
Yeah, you don't know that because I know.
Does he have a piano teacher yet?
No.
Figure it out later.
Yeah, we'll figure out later, because there's so many things, so we just keep it the same routine for now. Yeah, because he has been virtual.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Great, well, yeah, just been doing great.
Songwriters Association
Piano
of
and
Washington.
writing, really impressive course.
Yeah, so I don't know if you have time to someone, our schedule will get tricky, because we.
I don't put you on the spot.
Yeah, so there's
When are you moving?
Well,
there's like a
we will
Facebook group,
move in
it's mainly
July,
opera focus.
he practices piano,
Artists,
we'll
also do musical theater, I think it's 12.
so he won't get the piano until July.
You know what, I'll find a group and I'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely, so I'm
But
here
first
and
day-
I'm gone, and I'm here and I'm gone.
For collaborators.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will not be
Yeah,
it,
so
so
that
that
would
will
be-
place in July 16.
Thanks again for being
That's a
part of
Sunday.
Education.
16 is
Yeah,
it?
great.
So we'll see and we.
Yeah, just, let me email you some